Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. Made the trip. You got DanK here, and we got
Raistlin
beside me, and we are got some interesting stories talking about the Oregon Legislature. First, we've got some people that we've come across, and some really nice people out there. So we thought we'd give a shout out.
Yeah, I got puddle jumper towing over there in Goshen. Really helped out for me while I was on my travels. So if you ever need to get jumped or need help or something along the road, along the way, the number to call is 541-746-5566, and they take AAA. And I told them I'd give them a call out for them being such nice people. And another one is Snack Shack, the best burgers and barbecue in town. I mean, their breakfast pancake for $3.95, one big plate pancake and scrambled egg, and oh man, it was delicious. 4690 Franklin Boulevard, Eugene, and I'd say over there, go if you need something to eat or something. They're a really good meal. I mean, and then there's health and enrichment for low-income pets. Now, if you guys are low-income and need help with your pet, and this lady will help you out. Her name's Frances May. She's the founder. And yeah, if you go to helpfeedpets@gmail.com and give her a shout if you guys need any help with food.
Yeah, Help Feed Pets. That's what you got to remember, because it's on Facebook and Gmail. So, and it's both the same. Help Feed Pets.
Right, thank you. And her phone number is 541-321-6544. And I thought I'd give these people a shout out because they were so nice to me on the road.
Some good people in the community. So we're talking about Oregon politics. As you know, Measure 91 passed. We're supposed to be have legalized cannabis use in Oregon for adults 21 and above July 1st. However, the Oregon Legislature, instead of taking care of that and implementing that, they'd rather mess with the Oregon medical marijuana program, as they always do. So this is and I've got some stories here that range between May 12th and May 14th, and things are happening, things are popping. Marijuana politics in Oregon Legislature, outlook still hazy. This was in the Oregonian and on Oregon Live, the internet version, by Jeff Mapes, and this was on the 12th of May. Oregon Legislature still appeared at an impasse Tuesday over a controversial bill that would put new limits on medical and marijuana industry in Oregon, but key legislators played down the idea that it would lead the legislative leaders to dissolve the House-Senate Marijuana Committee. Instead, legislators were talking about two other options. Senator Floyd Pruszynski, Democrat Eugene, a member of the House Senate Committee, said the leadership might try to push the committee to come to consensus. The other option, he said, is to send the medical marijuana bill through separate Senate and House committees, essentially putting off the hard negotiations until later in the session. I do not think it's a total airtight impasse, and the committee will not disband, Pruszynski said. The impasse resolves around the issue of how much power local governments will have to ban medical marijuana facilities, chiefly dispensaries, in their localities. Senate members of the Marijuana Committee say they would allow local governments to ban the facilities. The citizens could gather the signatures to take the issue to the ballot if they wanted. House members said that it was unfair and would hinder access to the drug by medical marijuana patients. They supported a proposal requiring an automatic vote of the people if a local government sought to ban medical marijuana facilities. Bob Bovett, legal counsel for the Association of Oregon Counties, said his group supports the Senate proposal, and he said that's the one that has the votes to pass the full Senate. Bovett has repeatedly told legislatures they need to give cities and counties a solid way to opt out of allowing legal marijuana sales. Otherwise, he said, the state runs the risk of a federal court ruling that could more broadly hinder legal marijuana sales in Oregon. Senator Jenny Burdick, a co-chairman of the Marijuana Committee, said Tuesday afternoon that no firm decision had been reached on how to proceed with the medical marijuana bill. We're continuing discussions with leadership to see if we can find a path forward on this bill, she said. The major purpose of the medical marijuana measure, Senate Bill 844, is to limit diversions to the black market. Burdick and several other legislators see that as a key part of establishing a successful market for regulating sales of recreational marijuana. voters last year passed and issued Measure 91 that legalizes the drug. So there's the first article we have on the implementation, or rather lack of implementation, by the Oregon Legislature. And then we have, you want to do this one, the editorial?
All right.
Register Guard? This is, yeah.
This is the Register Guard editorial, Compromise on Pot Bill, Measures Needed to Curb Thriving Black Market, May 13th, 2015. Given the many obstacles, state lawmakers have made remarkable progress in drafting legislation aimed at placing long overdue limits on the state's medical marijuana program. But on Monday, members of the legislature's Special Pot Committee reached an impasse over the issue of allowing local communities to ban medical marijuana facilities. The issue in dispute is a narrow and resolvable one in the context of far broader legislation. Senate Bill 844, the bill establishes operating rules and production limits for Oregon medical marijuana growers with the aim of curbing what currently is a thriving black market and increasing the accountability of pot producers. After weeks of difficult negotiations, lawmakers on the bipartisan committee have agreed on most provisions of the bill, but one section remains unresolved: whether elected officials in cities and counties should be allowed to ban medical marijuana dispensaries within their jurisdictions. LA has a problem with that. Medical marijuana has been legal in Oregon since 1998, but dispensaries were not authorized until recently, and the legislature allowed local governments to block dispensaries within their jurisdiction until May 1st. 26 of the state's 36 counties, 146 cities enacted local bans before the deadline. Those are the kind of numbers that make lawmakers sit up and take notice, particularly those from rural areas of the state that voted against Measure 91. The recreational marijuana legalization initiative that passed last November, Senate Minority Leader Ted Ferroli, Republican John Day, recently noted that many communities that he represents would rather have no marijuana sales outlets at all, either medical or recreational. Against the backdrop, Senate Democrats and Republicans agreed on a proposal that would give local elected officials the authority to ban any new dispensaries while allowing citizens to collect fewer signatures than normal. Just 4% of the votes cast in the last gubernatorial race in any jurisdiction to refer that decision to the local ballot. House Democrats argued that the Senate proposal flies in the face of the statewide vote to approve Measure 91 and took a different approach, one that would allow elected officials to vote to ban dispensaries but would require the subsequent approval of voters on the November 2016 ballot. House Democrats hold the higher hand in this debate. Local officials should not be allowed to opt out of a statewide law without a certain public vote. Representative Peter Buckley, Democrat Ashland, is right when he says the legislature should not allow local government officials to tell medical marijuana patients they can't have local access to their medicine. But the difference between the two proposals is not worth putting at risk SB 844, which is necessary for the creation of an accountable, profitable, and safe market for both medical and recreational marijuana. Without this legislation, the continued diversion of Oregon-grown medical pot to the black market will undermine the success of the state's new legal recreational market. Lawmakers should work to reach a compromise on the disputed provision, preferably one that leans towards giving voters, not elected officials, the final say on local dispensary bans. Now that's interesting, since we've been fighting the federal government for so long. Now we got to fight the city government and county government.
Yeah.
The federal government overrules all that, so...
We call that canna bigotry.
Well, we voted those city and county elected officials into our...
So yeah, in fact, speaking of elected officials, my next story here is about one that's a real... well, anyway, I'll tell you about it here. This was, again, the Oregonian, the Oregon Live by Jeff Mapes. This is May 13th. Special Marijuana Committee created by Oregon Senate President to handle medical pot. Oregon Senate President Peter Courtney, we got two images of him so you can see what this clown looks like. moving to end a legislative impasse over a sweeping medical marijuana measure on Wednesday, created a special Senate committee to deal with the issue. The new committee is charged with moving a measure through the Senate that is aimed at cracking down on the black market diversions of medical marijuana growers. The House Senate Committee on Implementing the Marijuana Legalization Initiative, approved by voters, has been deadlocked over the issue of how much power to give cities and counties to ban medical marijuana dispensaries and processors in their areas. Senator Jenny Burdick, who co-chairs the House Senate panel and will chair the new Senate committee, said she thinks she can win a strong bipartisan majority on the Senate floor, which she said could help sway the House. Burdick, Democrat in Portland, and other Senate members of the Marijuana Committee support allowing city and county governments to bar medical marijuana facilities. Citizens could challenge it by collecting 4% of the vote in the last governor's race in their localities, allowing them to place the issue on the ballot. In contrast, a majority of the House members of the Marijuana Committee say they want any local ban to automatically do the vote of the people. They say they want to ensure the medical marijuana patients don't lose access to the drug. Burdick said she is trying to schedule a meeting of the new Senate committee on Monday. She said senators plan to amend Senate Bill 964 with their language on medical marijuana. So this is another round. Now, this is so stupid because they had this one committee, but it's not working out and they're having problems. They're stalled, so they're going to form a new committee. Only thing is, the new committee has about half of the members of the old committee. See, what a joke! You know. In the meantime, they're screwing around and trying to mess. In the meantime, they're screwing around trying to mess with medical marijuana. It doesn't need any messing with. It doesn't need any help. Or they got help, but they aren't going to help it the way it needs to be helped. Instead, they're ignoring the legalization of the implementation of Measure 91. So, and again, we have waving on one of our local boys, Greg Byers, Senator Greg Byers. This guy's not the sharpest pencil in the box. And he's the one that said, well, this is a statute, and statutes can be changed. Well,
just like our Constitution,
yeah.
Obviously.
So, yeah, and so that's kind of where their head's at, you know. So just because the people vote on it doesn't mean that has to be the way it is. That's basically what he's saying.
And also, don't we have an Oregon marijuana handbook by the Oregon Health Association? I mean, why don't they get together with them, and since they already have a medical marijuana handbook and it's got good guidelines and everything, they should get together with the Oregon Health Association.
What? You lost me. What's that got to do with what? What?
The medical marijuana big to do. You know, I mean, the way they keep trying to change all the rules and everything. They should get together with the people that began it all, because with the dispensaries in the city and county, we had problems with that in LA, and what they would do is they would have like a bingo number thing, and whoever chose a number and paid a certain amount could open up a dispensary in their area. Yeah,
and LA was unique in the fact they had dispensaries and then they had to close them down and they opened up again. And we can talk about it as an interesting fact over all that, so we'll talk about it when we get back. We're going to take a break, so we're going to be right back, so maintain your positions. Here we go. Welcome back to the second half of Eugene Cannabis TV, episode 576. You got DanK on this side, and we got
Raza Majoret, Sean Hooten on this side.
On that side. So one thing I want to mention real quick is the hemp meeting. I wish I had this info last week, but anyway, the hemp meeting is at Tsunami Books on Willamette, and it's going to be this coming Thursday, the 21st. So, in other words, if you're watching the show on Wednesday, the 20th, you got time to make it to the meeting. So. Anyway, I just wanted to put out a shout for that. Great people. They've been having meetings monthly. I was able to make a couple of the meetings, and a real dedicated group, and some interesting things happen. We're going to be seeing some hemp growing in the state of Oregon.
I hope so.
So, yeah. And, excuse me, quick mention of the Emerald Empire Hempfest. We had our first volunteer meeting at the park this last Saturday. We had a pretty good turnout. We had some great door prizes to hand out, so that's our new thing we're doing. So you come to a volunteer meeting and you can get into the drawing for some really cute little door prizes. And we meet at the park every third Saturday for sure. We will be at the park. We might be meeting in between then, and you can get connected with us and find out what we are doing. But that you can count on it. Every third Saturday we'll be at the park.
Were we going to be passing out volunteer things at Saturday market?
Volunteer applications at Saturday market. We might be down that area. We probably won't be setting up a booth like we have in the past, but we do like to drop in there and walk around, talk to people, and leave off flyers. There's a few vendors down there that are good friends of ours, and they'll be having. They will probably keep some there for us that people could pick up. In fact, that's something we could definitely do.
Right.
I know they do for us. So, anyway, this is on my calendar. I really wanted to make sure we cover this because Wednesday the 20th is going to be the anniversary of another hero. We talked about Dr. Philip Levesque last week, and we lost him. Well, this was someone that passed away in 2007, but I wanted to always remember him because I heard of him and never really met him, and I saw him speak once, and I was really, really amazed. You could understand everything he said. You could follow what he said. It was incredible and very educational. So let me tell you a bit about him. His name was Todd Hiro Mikura. He was born in 20 September 1933 and passed away the 20th of May 2007. He was a psychiatrist and author of books such as Medical Marijuana Papers, 1839 to 1972. He is known as an outspoken advocate for the legalization and use of cannabis for medicinal purposes. He is regarded by some as the grandfather of the medical cannabis movement in the United States, most especially California. This is all from Wikipedia, by the way. Born in Pennsylvania, he was the director of non-classified marijuana research for the National Institute of Marijuana Health Center for Narcotics and Drug Abuse Studies in 1967. His 1972 self-published book, Medical Marijuana Papers, 1839.
Marijuana medical. Marijuana medical, just in case if they...
became a landmark in the modern movement for the legalization of medical marijuana. Collected from the reference section at the National Library of Medicine, it was saved from complete oblivion. Much to the irritation of cannabis prohibitionists, this medical intelligence has been restored for possible alternative medical applications. Until his death in 2007, he continued in private psychiatric practice, limited to cannabis clinical consultation. He approved marijuana for medical purposes in over 9,000 patients, not solely in terminal cases, but also alleviation of physical and emotional pain in non-terminal cases. The legal situation is extremely complex. His practices are controversial and have drawn him into conflict with authorities. He was on 5 years probation with the Medical Board of California, resulting from prosecutorial manipulation and conspiracy with local, state, and federal law enforcement vendetta starting in 2000. No patients were harmed. There were no complaints from the patients, families, or community physicians. Only law enforcement in 11 rural Northern California counties responded to solicitation by medical board investigators and officials in the California Attorney General's office. In the 1998 interview, Mikura, whose father was a Japanese civil engineer and a converted Christian, and whose mother was born in Germany and was a practicing Baha'i, made a connection between his family background and his views. Growing up in the Quaker community of Fallingston, Pennsylvania, and attending Quaker schools, George School, Haverford College, it was the compromise chosen by his parents that the three Mikura children were raised as Quakers. The Quakers were proprietors of the Underground Railway, I'm proud to say. The cannabis prohibition was the same dynamics as the bigotry and racism that my family had experienced on 7 October 1941 when we were transformed from normal but different people into war criminal surrogates. Bakura wrote the lyrics for several songs used in the campaign for the 1996 medical marijuana initiative in California known as Proposition 215. He ran in the 1980 United States House of Representatives elections as a member of the Libertarian Party against the incumbent and a Democrat and a Republican for California's 8th congressional district seat. He lost with 10,465 votes to 108,000. In 1999, Bakura founded the California Cannabis Research Medical Group to help physicians share and exchange data about cannabis use by their patients. In 2004, the organization formed the Society of Cannabis
Clinicians.
To facilitate voluntary medical standards for physician-approved cannabis under California law. So anyway, rest in peace, Dr. Todd Jairo Bakura, but he was one of our heroes. And this is a letter that, you want to read this one? This is about the same length. This was a letter that was published in the email list that I'm on, and protocol requires that you can't divulge anything on a list publicly that you found or read. I wrote to this guy and asked him for permission to read read his letter on the air, and he was more than happy to let us do that. So this is in regards to what's going on with the Oregon legislature, and as I mentioned, trying to mess with the medical marijuana and ignoring the legalization, implementation of legalization. So,
all right, this one's my dear public employees. It is with great sadness that I write several of you, particularly Miss Burdick and Mr. Cruz, with sadness as your legacy will be one of grasping at failed policies. Fear of mandated change and an overreach of government control. This is no longer about legalizing cannabis. It is about the will of the people being not ignored but defied. What other issues will you choose to defy coming from the initiative process of the state? Most of us who are involved in this issue are well aware of the Cole memo and the chill it seems to give those in the system that said your first job is to do Oregon's work, not the federal government's. Is this work not expressly meant to enact M91 as it was voted into law? Are not the explicit mandates it was to not affect the OMMP clear? Fears of an unregulated market while adopting the liquor control model ignores that home brewers do not need to keep records of fear the ATF or OLCC auditing their beer brewing and exist side by side with a state liquor program. But enough hyperbole, the job is clear. Implement M91, leave the OMMP alone. Additionally, the moves to sidestep the representatives who are trying to do the will of the voters in full good faith and execution of their positions, as well as avoidance of public testimony, are showing that bargaining with you will not be in good faith on your part. So as a voter, Oregon resident, OMMP patient, I no longer ask that you do your job as state employees. I demand you do your job and enact the will of the people as mandated by 56% of the voters and implement M91 with no changes to the OMMP until it is in place 100%. At that point, consideration of relevant changes to the OMMP may or may not be considered. Until M91 is in place, the OMMP should be strictly hands off. Finally, to the solid folks who have stood firm and done their job representing the people who elected them, I have not enough words to thank you for what you what you are doing, not just for M91 and cannabis, but the initiative process itself. Your bravery and steadfast devotion to your constituency will not be forgotten by groups larger than just the cannabis community. This letter was sent to all of you as the message to both camps needs heard by both camps. The gratitude and thankfulness for those who are honoring the initiative process and the will of 56% of Oregon voters. And the necessary and unpleasant reminder to those whose personal agendas are taking precedence over their mandated job in Salem, that they are messing with a much larger group than just cannabis activists. They are acting in defiance of the initiative process and their constituency, and this will have much further reaches than the issue at hand. Please enact M91 as we voted. It is the job you are in Salem to do. With sincere thanks for your consideration, James H. Fryer.
Yeah, so it's a great letter. We're right on.
I hope everybody hears that.
What's that?
I said, I hope everybody watches this show and hears
definitely.
that.
Yes, those are excellent words. And I understand that James Fryer is moving to Eugene. So at some point, my guess is that he'll probably be on the show. So that'd be
on the show and at the Hempfest. Speaker at the Hempfest and everything.
Yeah, and we'd probably have him as a speaker at the Hempfest. And by the way, we're looking for speakers for the Hempfest. Open call for speakers.
Volunteers.
Anything on the cannabis issue. Do what?
Volunteers. I mean, yeah.
Right, definitely. We're looking for volunteers, and we're also looking for sponsors, vendors. Our booths are $250 for the 3 days. It's a 10 by 15 spot. You'll have the view of the stage in the front row, and it's
10%. The 10%.
10% what?
If they have their own product.
Yeah, if you have hemp products, you get a 10% discount, and it's a free event. It's free to the public, and it's in a city park. It's be at the Maurie Jacobs Park, which is on the river at the end of the footbridge across from Valley River. So it's a nice location, a lot of shade, a lot of trees, and
July 17th, 18th, and 19th. Still got a few months away. Plan it out and get organized and get in touch with the Emerald Empire Hempfest.
It's just short of 2 months away, coming up fast, and it's going to be good. So get involved. We need, like I said, volunteers especially, and leaders. We need crew leaders, and this would be a great time to step up and become a crew leader, and then actually take over a crew and really see it through. So
great possibilities on an interview or something.
You bet. So I appreciate it, and we'll see you next week. We'll be here. I hope you will be.
Awesome.